Today I'm going to talk about the sources, origin and transmission of the Quran. We will discuss the following points. First, the meaning of the word Quran, then the kind of sources we can discover, and what period in history did the Quran originate? How was the text of the Quran received and written down? And towards the end, I will provide some interesting facts which most likely you did not know about the Quran. Let me start with the Muslim view of the Quran.
Quran is miraculous in terms of its language. Something in the way Allah speaks, something in the way that He communicates His message is so profound and incredible that it can't even be translated.
The quantity and the quality of this miracle, the genre of the Quran, the style of the Quran, the eloquence of the Quran is something that no human has even come close to. It truly is timeless, and that is why when the greatest poets of Quraysh heard it, when the greatest poets of Arabia heard it, they didn't know what to do. They were mesmerized. It is mentioned in the Quran, multiple instances of the seerah. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions Al-Walid, for example, Ibn Uqba, what he did when he heard the Quran. Abu Jahl, the enemy of Islam, at night he would go stand outside the house of the Prophet ﷺ to listen to the Quran being recited.
So as we heard from this Muslim Imam, the ultimate miracle in Islam is the Quran. And Muslims are proud of it. But what does the word Quran even mean? The word Quran means the recitation, the discourse. This word comes originally not from Arabic, but from Syria, and was a Christian term meaning pericope. It is a Greek word meaning the portion that is read from the Bible during the church service. Most Muslims understand the meaning of the word Quran as being the verbal noun of Qara, which translates as he read or he recited. The Quran is the written foundation of Islam. Muslims believe that the Quran is the direct revelation of Allah. As we have seen in our previous study on the life of Muhammad, it is evident that he was in contact with people of other religions, such as the Jews and the Christians. It is therefore interesting to discover that many theological terms, stories and events mentioned in the Quran already existed in pre-Islamic times in the Arabian Peninsula. Let me explain and mention some examples. From the Arabian pagan tradition, which means the time before Muhammad, terms such as Allah, Kaaba or Hajj have already been existed. From the Jewish writings, the Talmud and the Old Testament, we discover terms such as Qibla. This means the direction of prayer. Please note, by the way, that at the beginning of his ministry, Muhammad performed Islamic prayer towards Jerusalem. You can read this in Surah chapter 2, verses 142 to 144. Also, stories about Abraham, Satan's refusal to worship Adam, Cain and Abel, parts of the life of Joseph, the Queen of Sheba's visit, 7 heavens and 6 hells. We also find grossly distorted stories about Moses, David and Solomon. From the Gospels in the New Testament, we find stories such as that of Jesus was born to the Virgin Mary, about John the Baptist, and some miracles of Jesus Christ are also to be found in the Quran. Also, the ascent of Jesus to heaven, we can also read about it. There are also some stories in the Quran from the apocryphal writings of the New Testament, such as the childhood miracles of Jesus, and the story of the cave of the seven sleepers. Some other stories are from Eastern sources, such as paradise described as a sensual place, the scales of justice, and a bridge over hell to paradise. The implications are that we discover that some terms, stories, and events in the Quran have already existed. It is evident that Muhammad, who was in contact with these religious people groups, heard and copied some of these stories for his recitations and preaching. In some places, the Quran, we also find that appear in a change from compared to the original. Considering these facts, we must conclude that Muhammad borrowed much text material from existing material which is not from Allah, given in a new and unique form. Thus, as some Muslims assert, it is difficult to believe that the Quranic text can be Allah's pure revelation, since much of its material has been taken from sources of pre-Islamic times, of which some predated the Quran by thousands of years. It is unimaginable that the Quran constitutes the direct word of Allah. I have been in contact with Muslim people in many different countries. They told me various stories about Muhammad. One of these stories was about transmitting the Quran from Allah to Muhammad. It goes like this. The Muslim told me that Allah himself wrote the whole Quran in golden script. After finishing, he made an exact copy and threw it to earth. It miraculously landed on the desk of a well-known Muslim scholar. As this man woke up in the morning, he found this book on his desk and thanked Allah. After that, he made more copies and distributed them to his friends, and thus the book found its way into all the world. Other Muslims have told me that the Quran has always existed and Muhammad received it as a book from the angel Gabriel while meditating in a cave near Mecca. Listening to these stories, the following questions arise. If the Quran is eternal and always existed, it couldn't be created by Allah, right? So how can it be Allah's word if it pre-existed with Allah? So do you, my dear Muslim friend, put the Quran beside Allah? Now let us talk about the origin and transmission of the Quran. Islamic tradition tells us that Muhammad is supposed to receive the text of the Quran starting in Mecca when he was about 40 years old. This was in the year about 610 after Christ. Muslims believe that bit by bit the Quran was revealed by the angel Gabriel over 22 years until Muhammad died in the year 632. When we study the Quran and try to determine the text when it originated, we can basically classify it into two periods. First, when Muhammad lived in Mecca from 610 until about 622, he preached against idolatry and Allah's judgment, the reward of the just in paradise and the judgment of the unbelievers in hell. It was also the time when Muhammad tried to persuade the Jews and Christians to vouch for his visions and to follow his teaching. Secondly, when Muhammad lived later in Medina, and this was from about 623 until 632, his focus differed from his earlier time in Mecca. What he experienced is reflected in the text of the Quran. It is the foundation and supremacy of his organization of the Islamic community. Under the leadership of Muhammad, Muslims gained sufficient political power in Medina. Since the Jews did not submit to him as expected, the conflict was unavoidable. The Quran consists of 114 surahs, which means chapter. It is assumed that 86 surahs originated in Mecca and 28 in Medina. In the beginning, Muhammad's words were memorized by his companions. As time passed, some texts were also written on materials such as dried animal skins, stones, palm leaves, etc. However, only about 23 years after Muhammad's death, the Quran was compiled at the time of the third Caliph Uthman. All other Qurans already in existence in various forms were ordered by the Caliph to be burned. The existing Quran is believed to be the exact copy of the original in Allah's presence. But the research of Dr. Brubaker shows that there were many variants of the Quran before the burning and standardization. So how can a Muslim be sure to have the original Quran in his hand? Not to say that even today there are at least 39 different Qurans variants in existence. In addition, we must ask, where is the original, final and standardized Quran from 652? First, I heard the following theories from Muslims about how they think the Quran originated. They told me various things such as Allah wrote the text and sent it down from paradise to earth. Also, Muhammad wrote the text under the guidance of the angel Gabriel. And another theory, Muhammad uttered the words and some companions wrote them down. In addition, the angel Gabriel wrote the text of the Quran and gave it to Muhammad. There are more theories, or what we also can call wishful thinking on this subject. Most Muslims believe that there is only one format of the Quran in existence in the world today and are thus unaware that there are a variety of different Qurans in existence with different texts. Most Muslims hold the Quran in high esteem and place it only on top of the bookshelf. They would only touch it after doing the ritual washing in order to be clean to touch this book. Further, since the Quran is difficult to understand, common Muslims rely on Islamic scholars and their interpretation. Some other Muslim scholars insist that the Quran must be read only in Arabic and cannot be translated into any other language. In conclusion, I like to emphasize the following. If we discover in our discussion with Muslims that they adhere to wishful thinking rather than facts, we should not ridicule them in any way. In a friendly way, we should instead ask good questions and encourage them to study the facts and then decide on the subject. Such questions can be: first, when Uthman ordered all other Qurans to be burned except his edition, do you think it is possible that not all of the Qurans were destroyed at that time and thus are even today in existence? Secondly, have you discovered some of the various sources mentioned in this video while reading the Quran? Thirdly, what differences do you discover when you, for instance, compare a Sunni against a Shiite Quran? Next point. Especially in the Western world, the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat has also published their own Quran, and they insist that this is the only true Quran. What do you think about this matter? Next, there are many translations of the Quran in various languages in existence today. What do you think about this issue of allowing the Quran to be translated? There are a variety of different scholars who have done extensive research on this subject. One comprehensive study of the original collection of the Quran text and early surviving manuscript is that of John Gilchrist. The title of his book is Jamal al-Quran, the codification of the Quran text. I strongly recommend this book. It has 7 chapters. The first is the initial collection of the Quran text. Second, the Uthmanic recension of the Quran. Thirdly, the codices of Ibn Masud and Ubay ibn Ka'b. Fourthly, the missing passages of the Quran. Fifth point, Sabat al-Akhruf, the 7 different readings. And the 6th chapter, the compilation of the Quran in perspective. The 7th chapter speaks about the early surviving Quran manuscripts. If you find this lecture helpful, please don't forget to give me a like. If you have specific questions, you can write them in the comment and I will answer each of them. You can find more information in my book and download an ebook version for free on our website. See you again soon. Good day and God bless you.